Hello students, Michael Sanchez, violin teacher here. Hope you guys are having a good evening. Today we're going to be working on a scale and then shortly after going into the very famous song, the Star Spangled Banner, which is the United States national anthem. Hope you guys are willing to practice some this week, as this is going to be a tough song, I think, for some of you that have been playing 1 to 2 years, as it's in the key of B flat major, which is probably a different key than you guys are used to at this level. So I'm going to go over to the scale here, and this basically points out all the notes that are in the key of B flat major in 2 octaves. So basically, because the scale starts on a second finger on the G string, you can play it in 2 octaves and it still stays in first position. So the first note is actually not a high 2 on the G string, it's actually a low 2, which is B flat. Being that there's 2 flats in the key signature, you're always going to find that they're always the same. They're always B flat and E flat. There's no exception to that rule. And in all music, actually, if you see 2 flats, it's always B and E flat. So that means that on the G string, instead of playing a high 2, you're going to play a low 2, which is B flat, so right next to your first finger. I would recommend using 4th finger. And then when we get to this next note here, this is an E flat. Well, it's actually a low 1, so you have to make sure that your first finger is actually in a lower position than the normal one. So for those of you guys that are here, I'll show you where that is. That's the advantage of being in the live class. So we have a low 1 right by the nut, right by the very end of the fingerboard. And then we have low 2, which is actually going to be a whole step apart from E flat. 3 is a whole step as well. So actually all these notes are all whole step apart. And what I mean by whole step is that they're not touching in first position. They're actually a space apart, which is an important space to understand how far that is in all music, but definitely the violin because it's a fretless instrument. So knowing how far that space is an extremely important thing. Okay, and then we go on to the A string, and we're going to have low 1 B flat, low 2, which is also a whole step. There's actually a lot of whole steps in this scale. Finally, we come up to a very easily missed note, which is E flat, and it's actually going to be touching your 3rd finger. So that's actually the first whole half step in a while. So those are touching. Then you're going to have low 1 on the E string. So you actually have low 1 on both the A string and the E string. So that's important to find that. I do have a really good lesson in my on my website regarding fundamentals of playing in low 1s or flat keys. It's just basically a tutorial that explains that it's really important that you don't dip the hand to find the low 1, that you instead squeeze the finger back to keep the hand at the same height. A lot of students do that where they dip the hand, and that actually causes it very challenging to play in tune. When you start to do the low 1, then all of a sudden you're going to be out of position for the 3s and the 4s. So it's important to do that low 1 properly. All right, then we got 2, 3, then we're going to have low 4 on the E string, half step away from the A, so that's another half step. So actually the finger spacings for B flat major are the same exact on both the A string and the E string. So we have low 1 on A and E, then 2, 3, and then low 4. All right, coming down can sometimes be more challenging than going up, so definitely recommend working on going down. You guys could use a tuner just to really make sure you're matching pitches and you're in the right key and finding the right notes. Obviously, to play with a tuner, you have to make sure that your violin's in tune when you start. These particular 2 notes, I would find students miss these quite often, the low 1 and the low 4. Let me play those a second just so you guys can really match those pitches, but that's a very easily missed sequence there. So it should be low 1 sounds like this, and then low 4 sounds like this, like that. So if I'm starting from the top, like that. And most of you guys are probably going to be dipping your hands and kind of moving the hand too much or pressing down too hard. It's really important to not do that. It's really key to just be using the tips of your fingers and having it relax as left hand as possible. All right, so we go through and we play B flat on the way down, we play low 1 E flat, and we finally conclude with the B flat low 2 on the very bottom of the scale. All right, let's play through it together. I'm going to use the whole bow. Make sure that my right hand is relaxed, and make sure you get all the way to the tip. Just like that. And you guys could also do the thirds. We won't do that right now, but we'll definitely at least start with the scale. All right, great. Raise your hand if that makes sense, and you guys are going to work on the scale. Those of you that are here in the live class, let me know if you guys have any questions as well as we go. Okay, so let's go on to our piece of the day, which is the Star Spangled Banner. And this piece is in the key of B flat, so the exact same finger spots as we just showed you in the scale is going to apply to the Star Spangled Banner. There's a lot of different keys that you can play this in. This is, I would consider, probably an intermediate level key, so it's definitely not the easiest or the hardest. But yeah, it's a really good level, I think, for those who have been playing between 1 and 2 years. It's good to start to understand your flats when you start to get to this level. Okay, so there are some accidentals which basically bring the intonation back to normal, which is indicated by this natural symbol I just circled. So normally that would be a low one, but in this case it's actually going to be a normal one, which means that the second finger which follows should be touching it like that. So that's a kind of an important spot. And if you guys know the song, which most of you will, you'll just kind of hear that. That should be a high one. But there are quite a few low twos, low 2 B flats, low 1 B flats. Here's another low 1 B flat. Quite a few B flats. We even have some accents that I'll show you guys how to play. And then I've shown you guys this in previous classes, but basically a first and a second ending indicates that you can either play one of these boxes, but don't play them both right after one another. So if you're playing the first part of the piece, choose either the second or the first ending. If you choose the second ending, continue on. If you choose the first ending, go back to the beginning, and then the second time through, take the second ending. So if you guys haven't seen that before, that's what that is. We have a low 1 F natural, which is easily missed. Then definitely right here, actually, if you guys remember from the scale, I actually circled this sequence, which I think could easily be missed in this song as well, followed by a D natural touching, low 4. So if you guys ever play open E when you come up to this note, that's totally incorrect. It's going to sound not right, and although it's much easier to play an open E, it's not going to be correct in the key of B flat because it's not E natural that you have to play, it's E flat. So hopefully you guys understand that. Very important. Okay, then we have a D natural again. High 1 touching the 2. Low 1. Here's another low 4 to make sure you guys don't miss. Lots of low ones. So this is a really good practice of finding flat keys in proper hand position. One thing I suggest to you guys is that as you're playing throughout, try to really notice that the hand does not dip, it stays high. So you should always see your fingers in arced position and not in flat position. So I always say to students, make sure that you're making mountains with the fingers and not flat planes. So you should see that arc with the fingers in every position that you're playing the song, which is easily changed when you're doing the low ones. All right, low 4, and then we ended the piece at low 1. That would make sense. Okay, let me play through it all the way through. I'll play it slow, and then I'll play it faster for you guys. And I'll take the second ending, not the first ending. Ready, go. I'll play the fast version at the very end. Do have some stuff I want to kind of point out first. So these two notes here, make sure that you guys are playing these at the tip of the bow, because it's coming right off of a half note, which brings you to the tip. So make sure you guys are doing that. I also noticed it in this point. Make sure you do these also at the tip. Okay, and then as far as accents go, let me explain to you guys how to do accents. So basically what that is, it's an emphasis note that you should tug a little bit harder, a little faster than normal. So these are basically just normal notes on the violin. If I play like open D, but now if I accent them, I'm going to kind of just bump it a little bit more at the beginning to make it more emphasized. Like that. So instead of going, it's like that. So it's just a little bit of a tug, which is basically occurs from using the index to bring the bow down a little bit faster than normal. So don't use the arm or the big muscles to do that. Use the small muscles at all times, the index. Okay, so I noticed that. And then actually one thing that I don't know if you guys know what it is, some of you will, is what we call a fermata. Now fermata is basically a note, or it's a symbol above a note, that indicates that the note should be held a little bit longer than normal. And it's actually kind of a ongoing held length. It's decided by the musician, how long they hold that note. Obviously you don't want to go like, for 10 beats or something, but if it's held for 2 beats, you could hold it for, say, 3 or 4. If you're playing in an orchestra, the conductor kind of has leeway to lengthen that note as long as he wants to with his hands. So you'll see that in orchestra, kind of a ongoing note that's changes based on how long he wants to hold it for. So that's what a fermata is. So basically, you could play that like this. That was maybe 3 or 4 beats, like that. Or it could be just even a little shorter than that. It could be. If you really want to milk it, you could even do. Like that. That would technically be proper with a fermata. All right, raise your hand if that makes sense. Okay, great. All right, so I would suggest working on the scale this week. I'd suggest practicing the song, making sure that you guys are putting fingers in the right spots, and maybe adding in some of those extras, the accents and the fermata, and just make sure that your hand's in a good position. I'm going to play it through a little bit faster, maybe with a little bit more emotion this time. Maybe some more vibrato, the way I would play it if I was to actually play it in at a baseball game. All right, here we go. Like that. So I kind of changed some lengths of notes based on those fermatas and kind of just felt the music a little bit here and there. All right. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the class. These should be available on the site here soon. I'm going to kind of hang out with the people that are currently in the class and answer any questions they have. And for those of you guys that want to see me on video while doing these webinars, you can participate by joining the live classes, which is available to sign up for on the site, and it's totally free to join the live webinars. You guys have a good day, and email me at michael@superiorviolins.com if you have any questions.